So you do seminars live in a physical location. So you're living around where you live. So you do seminars there. Then you do virtual appointments through this online appointment center. And so you've got two very different, distinct sources for getting clients, getting leads, that kind of thing. Did I understand that correctly?
Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Annuity Fundamentals with your co-host Kylie Malad, and we got Ryan Anderson on the line, and we are very excited to have Jeff Woodard with us today. He's been in the industry just going on 8 years, but he has a ton of years in entrepreneurship. So we're going to learn a little bit from him and how he got started in the business and kind of what he did to set himself up for some success. So we're excited to have you. Thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, now, Jeff, let me give a little bit more background on you here. Now, you are the director of income. You're the director at Income for Life LLC, and you've been in the industry for about 8 years. But before that, you lived overseas for like 25 years in the IT industry,
Correct.
working with Oracle and many exotic and wonderful places. I mean, there's Saudi Arabia, Kuwait. I mean, Asia. I think you said Singapore was a big spot there. How do you transition from a life that a lot of people dream about, I mean, overseas with a tech giant like Oracle, to selling annuities? There's got to be a story there.
Oh, yes, there's a story there. Well, I was fortunate to get to go overseas when I was much younger. It was not easy to get overseas in those days as an American. And they offered me a choice of Nigeria or Saudi Arabia. So we took Saudi Arabia, and we lived there for a couple of years with the kids, family and all. And I had Bahrain, Saudi, and Kuwait. And then the company moved me to Indonesia. And then after that, was headhunted into Oracle in Singapore. So my kids were raised in Singapore. Basically, we spent 18 years there on top of the rest of the career. And then when my I had my youngest son graduated high school. One of my brothers died, and we said we think it's time for us to move back to the States. So we looked around and ended up here in South Carolina, where I've got family, close to family. We're big Clemson fans, by the way. Uh, my daughter went to Clemson. My brother was professor at Clemson. So we ended up here. We love it here and close to family. Then it was, well, I'm not ready to retire, really. Not only mentally, but maybe not as financially as I'd like to, like a lot of people probably. So I was actually a client with Mass Mutual, with a group out of Mass Mutual, a general agency offered me a career opportunity with Mass where I could work from home here and also get involved in the business. And I was a huge fan by that time because my wife and I bought two different whole life policies. She bought one. They'd been doing well. We understood them. We read Infinite Banking and all the other books. There weren't very many books around at that time, but I had read all the books and decided, yeah, this is pretty cool. People ought to just buy this, right? Well, guess what? It didn't happen. People don't just buy it. You probably know. Well, this thing is so great. I've got this shiny object. Why don't you buy the shiny object? But it was a tough start. And I think it probably is for a lot of agents. I don't care whether you're 60 or 25. That first year or two, better be ready to put in some hard yards. And one thing I tell new agents all the time is learn to accept no. You have to be able to accept no more than yes, or you won't make it in this business because it can be rough, and sometimes they can't even explain why they didn't go forward, but they didn't. So that's where I got into it. And then after that, I was actually a little bridled with all the constraints, just working for a big insurance company or general agent. And I joined a kind of an MLM, a good one, I think. And then, they had a lot of great training, learned a lot. And that's when I started branching more into IULs and annuities and things. And at that point, though, I said this MLM recruiting people. Again, at my age, I'm not ready to build an agency with 50 people. I'm just not going to do it. So, I could make it work on my own, and maybe with a few good people working with me. And I said, let's just go independent. And I actually, because I had such good production, and that's another thing for new agents. You can't just jump in and say, "Hey, I want to work with one of the best IMOs or FMOs." Right? They're not probably going to take you on, or even a general agent, uh, without some sort of track record. Right? So I was fortunate because I had been a client and got introduced to the general agent, but from there I had to prove my own mettle. Right? And that's why I got with good FMOs, and all of a sudden there was a new world opened up because the opportunities of different kinds of products. And I mean, I'm fundamentally an independent guy anyway. And when I went independent, I said, "Isn't this great? I can sell essentially anything on the open market." And I guess to take a little bit further, if you want, why annuities now? Because they're performing so well. I mean, I still am a big fan of insurance, and I'm not biased one way or the other, IUL or whole life. I think done properly, there's a tool. My mentor always said they're just tools, just like any tool that needs to be applied properly. A hammer doesn't do as good a job as a screwdriver for some things, so you've got to apply the tool properly. And that's what I tell clients all the time. But the tool of an annuity does something that nothing else will do, and that's guaranteed income for life, right? There's no other tool in the toolbox that'll do that. So once you get that and you realize you have to learn a lot and understand the different types of annuities and the pluses and minuses, but there's a huge opportunity to help people using the tools we have. I hope that answered.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said opportunity. Even when you said you got to get used to hearing no to hear a yes, it's all about opportunity and putting yourself in front of the client. There's a lot of agents who have the right material, they have the right products, they have the right FMO, they have the right IMO, but if they're not getting in front of clients, then they are missing the opportunity. And I've been with a ton of agents, even in my old agency, who just wouldn't go outside of their own box. They wouldn't go outside of their comfort zone. And I think that's where really agents suffer. They have all the tools necessary, but they don't know how to use them. And I think that's a dangerous place to
Yep.
be, to say, hey, I have all of these carriers and they're great. And I see all of these products and these solutions to help our client, but I'm not sure how to implement them. So I think training is going to be a big deal with a new agent as well, of saying, okay, yeah, I have a good starting point, but where do I use this hammer? Where do I put the screwdriver? How does that all work? Right. So it's just going in and really, I mean, taking this serious. If you're going to explain an annuity to somebody and you're going to pitch that for a solution for their retirement, you better know what that solution looks like. So
You better.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Might just add to that a little bit. Yeah, knowledge is one thing, but application is what it takes. And one of my mentors a while back, he said, "Look, you've either got to spend time or money. So if you don't have any money, you've got to do the time." Now, I'm not a fan of picking up the phone these days because I don't believe people answer the phone anymore. But a lot of people do, and they do that, or they door knock, or they do whatever they need to do, networking events, those kind of things that don't cost a lot of money, but they require a lot of time and effort. And for new agents, that might be the place you need to start. But I would say that if you have a few $1,000s saved up, you're probably well off to start doing some lead gen programs of different types, to really, the key, Kelly, as you know, I'm sure, is I need to have that pipeline. I need to have that next person. And if I don't, the last that you probably heard desperation boys, you don't want desperation boys. The last thing you want is to say, "I really, really need this business." No, they need you, right? You need to remember that as an agent. They need you. I've said to more than one potential client, this is a lot more important to your retirement than it is to mine. I don't mind saying that because it's
Yep.
absolutely true. So, if you want to go do something else with your money, that's your money. But this is an opportunity again for you to do something different with your money. But as an agent, you've got to be able to build that pipeline somehow. So when that person says no, you can say next.
Let's talk about that for a second. you went through, you started out years ago with Mass Mutual, captive agency, and they've got their own internal systems. And you progressed from whole life and using infinite banking or one of those. There's several models out there that they're very good with. And as far as to create an income and in retirement using life insurance products, which is wonderful. Moving through IULs, moving to term, all that. And let's focus on where you landed, where you do a lot of annuity business right now. And the fact, I mean, that guaranteed income for life, that's a huge piece to it. What methods do you
Yeah.
use currently to fill your pipeline? You've got two or three different ones, and if there's some that you recommend strongly that they really do a good job with you, by all means, give them a plug. We'll give them some free advertising. If there are methods that haven't worked so well, let's be a little bit more careful with those. We don't want to get sued by anybody. But as far as
Right.
how much money do you think a new agent should spend in order to keep a pipeline fill? What kind of lead should he go
Yeah.
through?
What didn't work? Uh, going through COVID and those early days of trying to do online, it was a mess. And I spent a lot of money and beat my head against the wall, didn't get much. I had a company do a done for you campaign for me where they created slides, beautiful slides and everything. And I spent a lot of time and money and didn't get anything out of that. So, two things that are working for me today. Uh, if you're comfortable to do them, and it's probably a lot harder for that 25-year-old, but for somebody like me who's very comfortable in front of a crowd, who spent his life in front of crowds and doing business, I'm very comfortable in a seminar setting. So seminars are working right now. Now, what does that mean to your question, Ryan? If you're going to do seminar with a quality company that they're going to do that, don't try to get your own people into seats at a seminar. You're not going to succeed at doing that. There's people out there that do this every day for a living, but you're going to have to pay them, all right? And you have to pay for the mailers, and you may have to pay for the venue, and you may feed them a steak dinner, you may not. I don't really do many. I do mostly educational seminars because the reason I like the educational seminars, I can stand up there as an expert and explain things like more like a professor instead of I'm here to feed you steak dinner. You need to listen to me. Now that doesn't mean they don't work because steak dinner certainly work. But
Right.
that's one approach that is definitely working. You get good people. Yes, you're only still your numbers is still going to be the people that you see. You're still going to only get uh, a third, most maximum. Say you're going to close a third of the people you see face to face, which means you're only going to close maybe 3 or 4% out of your seminar. Well, that's okay though. That's all you need. So that's one thing. And then the other thing I'm doing simultaneously, I am doing online lead gen. Okay. And I will put a little pitch. I'm working with Annuity Gator. Okay. They're one of the longest term companies in this business. They've been doing online lead gen for roughly 10 years, and they know what they're doing. And so, what the model is fairly straightforward. You do pay per lead like most of them, but they set the appointment for you. Okay. So, to me, for those who are out there buying leads and trying to just set appointments and chase people, I tried that too, and it didn't work. Okay, not for me anyway. And it just became a chase, 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 and the I didn't get very good prospects on those kind of things. When they come through a quality system, you're going to get a somewhat qualified prospect. Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to get the internet flakes. You'll get them, but mostly it's, hey, you're curious about this. I want to know more about income and retirement and all. So when we get them on the phone, the initial call to further answer your question, it's not just I'm here to flout annuities. Okay. I'm here to talk about retirement planning. And annuities often are a piece of that. They may not be. It might be life insurance. It might be some managed money. I don't know when I get them on the phone, but the thing is, when you can say, I understand how to put these products together, and I'm not just here to sell you a product. I'm here to sell you a solution to your problem. That's a fundamentally different discussion.
Now, let me interrupt real quickly here. When you're talking about so we'll use the Annuity Gator, and they're very well respected out there, great organization. Um, do you do remote appointments, is like Zoom, telephone, that kind of thing, or do you go meet with the clients live?
No, uh, Annuity Gator's model is 100% virtual. Okay. Now, I have gotten a couple of local clients where I will go meet them, but rarely. In fact, I had a woman who said, I really want to work with a local advisor in Philadelphia. And I said, good luck. I'm not going to fly to Philadelphia. All right. So we are 100% virtual. Typically, the first call is phone. If they are able and willing to get on a Zoom or video share on the first call, sometimes we do that. But really, the first call is a mutual vetting process. If you get right down to it, it's like, can I work with you? Can you work with me? Are we on the same wavelength? And that will lead to a second call, which is generally a Zoom, and then we can get more specific. And then inevitably, you have to get some kind of a fact finder, partially for compliance, but also just to make sure you're solving the right problem, right? So usually on the first call, we get pretty much a good bit of the fact finder, and then typically the third call, which is a second Zoom, is the solution presentation.
Okay, so I want a little bit of clarification there. So you do seminars live in a physical location. So you're living around where you live. So you do seminars there. Then you do virtual appointments through this online appointment center. And so you've got
Sure.
two very different, distinct sources for getting clients, getting leads, that kind of thing. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, sir, exactly. And I'm not saying this is for everybody either, because it's where I've landed through, like all of us, through trial and error as much as anything. But can I do 100% virtual? Could I do 100% seminars?
Mm.
Probably. But at this point, my wife, who's my partner in many ways, we both agreed, let's try this for a while. Let's see how this goes for a year. It's been about a year now. And obviously, it's working because the two pipelines are roughly equal in terms of revenue. Okay. You find my experience, again, this is my limited data set, probably not as big a cases on the virtual. You might, you're getting sometimes a guy who has another, a couple hundred. I'm not doing anything with it. I need to do something with it. Right. That's what you'll get. Whereas with the face to face, you're typically dealing with a full blown retirement plan. But I like to take them both in a similar direction as far as, okay, it is a full plan, and that doesn't mean we're going to stop here. It means, we do annual reviews, and I'm going to talk to you almost always about more, because even if I did an annuity, there might be a place for a life insurance policy for you. And today, with most of my clients, long-term care, right? So we also broach into asset-based long-term care specifically if needed and they're open to it. So again, it's more, I mean, I'm not quite got the RICP yet, but I'm using the approach of the full retirement income planning.
One more quick question here before I just do there. So you said you've got two. This is just intriguing
Yeah.
to me. I've never heard of an. I've never spoke to an agent that's got two very distinctly different lead sources. They generally lean one towards the other. It's like, oh, I'm trying to do this, but to say that I've got a $6 million in sales, in issued business, and for those of you who want to do the math on that, $400,000 approximately in comp if it's all fixed index annuities, which is a nice place to be. The And where you kind of got them split in half. So one more question, and I know Kylie's got a bunch of stuff there that I'll be quiet. Of those, so what is your uh I guess the cost per lead, are they comparable? You don't need to give into the secrets of the details of your business, but I mean, are they comparable in the amount of as far as the online thing through the lead company versus the seminars? Are they costing you about the same to get in front of people, or is one more cost effective than the other?
That's a great question. Limited data, I'm looking at it now. I don't have, because I've been a little bit on vacation, I only have numbers for this year through May. But in 2023, and by the way, If you're a new agent, you need to be able to pull up this spreadsheet like I'm looking at and get the numbers to the dollar. Okay, you got to track your numbers. You got to track your numbers. I can't repeat it enough times. If you're not tracking your numbers, you don't know what's working. And given that I did do something a little unusual with two very different lead sources, I said, clearly, we need to see which is pulling its weight. What's interesting when I look at 2023 numbers, which is less than half a year, uh, ROI about 200% on both. Okay, so we got double, not great, not good enough, right? But double in 2023. But in 2024, the online is doing about 440 ROI, and the face to face is doing about 720 ROI. That's where
Yeah,
we
I
need to be.
appreciate that. I feel like there's a lot of new agents out there who don't know where to start. And you're right. They typically it's get on the phones and start calling people. But that doesn't always work for you. I mean, it didn't work for me. I remember being a year into the business, going into Ryan's office and saying, "This isn't working. We got to do something different. Let's get into the seminar space. Let's do something different." And he was very willing to and able to do that. So that's what we did. But I think a lot of new agents say, "Oh, well, I have to copy someone exactly because they're successful, so I'm going to copy it." But
Uh,
you're not that person. So it might not work for you. And so I
uh,
appreciate that you said, you know what, that wasn't working for me. I didn't like it. I can be in front of people. And there's a lot of people too that we've come in contact with through Annuity Fundamentals who aren't ready to maybe stand in front of a group of people to do a seminar, but they are ready to take a one-on-one phone call that an
yeah,
appointment's already set for them.
right.
So
And that
that's able, or partnerships are
absolutely, and
always nice.
they are. And that doesn't mean you couldn't split it with somebody or something
Yep.
like that if you're not ready to ante up the cost of the lead gen program. And I would add another thing. Again, it's kind of where I am at this point. I'm more than a year into this model, and we said we're going to do at least 6 months. But once I got into it, Kylie, it was like we better do a year in
Yeah.
order to give it a good go, because of the change in the seasons and the fact that you're learning, and it's a learning curve to any of these. And obviously, face to face meeting is a very different
Oh yeah.
situation from a virtual meeting, especially face to face. You often have both the husband and wife, and I got to admit, I like them both because the face to face, I do like getting the husband and wife in there and watch their body language and how they react to each other, and it's interesting. But often when I get to a real deal on the virtual, I'm almost demanding that the spouse step in, at least be in the call, right? Maybe not totally engaged, but I want to see him or her. And I
Yep.
want to ask them when I state something like ABC, did you understand that? Because one thing, again, that's maybe helpful for new agents, I hope so. If they absolutely want to allow the spouse, that could be a deal breaker. And a lot of times what I've found, and I imagine you have too, is they'll say, "Oh, I make all the decisions," and it turns out they really don't. Right? So that'll kill a deal. You spend 3, 4, 5 hours, you do proposals, you do
Yep.
illustrations, and you find out she doesn't want to do it. Right? So that's something I try to do, whether virtual or not. But I love the face-to-face interaction, and the challenge of doing virtual is trying to recreate that as much as possible.
Do you find you have to do more appointments virtually to get to the close than you do face to face? I mean, because for me, if I was to go in for the Medicare appointment, my I have found that I go in, Medicare appointment, I get annuity tee up, I come back, I do an annuity 101, I come back with the case and I close. So it's a three close process versus if I'm doing a social media or something like that, I actually find that I either have to be much more directive than I'm comfortable with, or I have an extra appointment or two to actually get to the close so that I think that they've got enough exposure to me to get comfortable with me because you lose something in this environment.
Oh, you do. There's no doubt about it. So maybe two-pronged answer. For the client who has the 100 to 200 sitting around, I just want to do something with it. Can you get me $1,000 a month when I'm 65? Those are usually fairly cut and dried. And the nice thing about something like Annuity Gator, it's not like we're going to talk about Social Security or Medicare and then we're going to jump over and talk about annuity. They know you're there to talk about annuities. right? Primarily. So sometimes that's a quickie, it's a couple meetings. Hey, I got this 100. That being said, uh, I had a guy who had about 500, and the only thing he wanted to do with that money is to make sure he didn't have to sell any stock to pay his RMDs. That's it. So, so he said, "Can you set me up with this half a million over here that every month or every year I can just have it paid to the RMDs?" And so that was complicated, believe it or not, to prove to him that the fixed index annuity would perform that way, et cetera, so that he would be comfortable to do that. So that took some time. So it's a variety, but I guess the bigger answer is when it turns into more of a solution sale, a retirement income certification type sale, it's inevitably going to take longer, right? And so to answer your question, sometimes for the easy ones online, it's one or two or three close, and then sometimes the online have taken 5 or 6 or even more because you're right. You've got to win that trust, and virtually it's harder. There's no doubt about it. And I find things like, doing, getting your media presence out there, et cetera, does certainly help. And letting them know, I've got a book, by the way, and some articles out there. That certainly helps to position you as a credible and not just some flake on the internet. So that helps. But yeah, I would say the close uh, sales cycle, we used to call it, it's going to be longer than what they used to tell me. They used to say you can close a deal in 6 weeks, 2 months. That's not been my experience. Not when you're talking about $500,000 or somebody's retirement. Uh, my good deals, my bigger deals, 5 or 6 meetings is not unusual. I'm not saying I want to
Yeah.
do that. I'm not saying I want to shoot for that. But in order to get somebody to move $1 million virtually, and I've done it, you better get that. You've got to get that contact.
It is a mindset as well. Like, when you're sitting in front of someone face to face, the trust building goes a lot quicker than it does over the phone and virtual. So you're right. It might take 3 to 4 face to face, and it might take 5 to 7 virtual. But either
Correct.
way, I mean, you have to understand, like, this is going to happen. It's just going to take time. But you also know, well, we're doing virtual. So it's all about setting those expectations for yourself, right? You got to go in and say, I can't do this just for 6 months. I better give it a year. I need to see what all of the seasons look like. I think there are a lot of agents, and perhaps too many, who give up too soon because it didn't work the first or second time. And if I would
Oh
have
yeah.
done that, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at seminars. I mean, we went
Yeah.
through and we work with a company called Lead Shop. Their website's leadshop.org, and they help fill the room for seminars. And we tell them, it's like, you need to plan for a minimum of 3 months, doing a couple of events a month, simply because the location. Are you going to do a dinner event? Is the restaurant right if you're doing that? Or if you do a educational event, is the venue right? We learned the hard way after spending a lot of money,
Yeah.
fraternal organizations, the Elks Lodge, the Eagles Lodge, that we didn't have much success there. Much better success at a community center or a library versus renting a space, because it was not, it's safe ground, I guess, neutral ground, or
Yep.
in a community center. And you can spend a lot of money on dinners and have people that have no money coming. It is just and trying to find the right marketing piece for the area you're in. And yes, if you do a steak dinner, you're going to get a lot more people there. But if you do an educational event at a community center, you're going to have half as many people, has been my experience, but with a much higher intent to buy. Does that make
Correct.
sense?
Absolutely. That's been my experience because I'm the educator. You came to learn, right? And I keep my seminars, I used to do 2 hours. I'm down to just about an hour right now. I keep them short and sweet, to the point. And my objective is to get some meetings out of that seminar. But many times people walk out, they don't sign up for an appointment, but they say, thank you, I've learned so much. And honestly, that's satisfying as well, because at this point in my life, my career, I'm happy to give back. If you walk out of here, I mean, I had several people did sign up for appointments, didn't have any money. I mean, if you got 50 grand, I can't help you much. If you're 65 and you got 50 grand in the bank, there's
Yeah.
not a lot I can do for you. But the woman said, I just feel like I'm going to be using my money so much better now because I understand Social Security or whatever. I mean, I do the whole thing. And that's important to me. And so, yeah, two things. You'll get a few
Yeah.
meetings. Some of that will turn into business, but you also walk out there feeling like you've done a bit of good.
Absolutely. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate having you on. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're a new agent and you're looking for solutions, make sure you have an open mind. The first thing might not always work for you, but eventually you'll get there, and it's all about perseverance, especially in this business. So get used to hearing some no's because the yeses will come. So yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. And if you are looking for annuity training, please check us out at annuityfundamentals.com and book a phone call with us, and we can get you some training and some help that you need. But yeah, thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you. Hope it was helpful.